Alright guys, now this is going to be an interesting and likely very good video. You see, I was recommended this a few times by people in my Discord, so I decided I should probably react to it on stream. It's gotten a fair few views, though I think it's quite underrated. It's by a channel called Jasper Dasper, and it's called Debunking Transphobia. Very simple, straightforward video, but from what I've heard, it does just that. It is a massive, nearly 5-hour video that deep dives into the most common transphobic talking points and just rips them apart from what I've heard. And I'm excited to see it and find out what all the hype is about. I encourage you guys to go check out this video yourselves, as it'll be linked down below in the description, and considering its length, we won't even be able to watch a fraction of its runtime here on stream. So if you want to see the rest of this massive undertaking of a video that no doubt took a lot of work to produce, then click the link in my description and go check out Jasper Dasper. Anyway, folks, let's learn about transphobia and how stupid it is. I've liked to think myself a pretty good debunker of transphobia in the past, but the logic and, well, I should say the lack of logic of transphobes has morphed over time, so getting brushed up on their talking points and the best responses never hurts. You know, even if we're just going over the basics, the fundamentals, it's always good to, you know, hone the fundamentals. Fair warning though, this video contains mature language and mentions of child abuse, sexual abuse, suicide, and pedophilia. Viewer discretion advised. Unfortunately, the right has made this a necessity when discussing this topic, but let's see what this is all about.
In the last decade, everything became about trans people, and I wanted to know why.
So 2 years ago, when I began making this video, I knew things were bad.
Stop the harm! Stop the harm!
Transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely.
But it's so much worse than I thought.
We've interviewed Craig's family recently. They say that the therapy you did with him as a child led directly to his suicide as an adult. What do you say about that?
I didn't know that. That's too bad.
The more I dug, the worse it got.
I want to make you understand what I'm getting at. Now take your clothes off.
What I found was lies, abuse, and conspiracies. Decades of studies built upon vulnerable children.
Every single part.
I think a lot of this stuff, based on the flashes I've seen, I'm gonna already know about, but I think it's really important if you're, let's say, baby lefty, baby progressive, and you haven't spent a lot of time engaging with the arguments of the right, and so you're not necessarily equipped to, like, pull information from your, like, sack of knowledge in order to throw back at them, this is going to be a valuable video. There's a lot of history, science, and sociology behind the validity of trans people that can be used to dominate an argument against a transphobe, particularly in front of an audience, which is what matters. Having, like, spectators have their minds changed by seeing beliefs they hold, founded on ignorance, destroyed in front of them, without them having the desire to defend those positions because they're the one being destroyed in a debate, you know? Because people turtle up and don't change their positions when they get pushed back against, but if they see it happen, it may impact them a bit. It's happened before.
Part of trans research is rotten. And it all starts with this question.
Why are people transgender? In 1990, there were 4 recorded cases of transgender kids in the UK. In 2021, there were more than 5,000. But this video isn't about that question. It's about the people who try to answer it.
Damn, I recognize so many of those dots.
I think I have an idea for a new video. I'm kind of working on something else right now, right there. But this book, I got it recommended, or I saw some people recommending it, of exposing the trans lie inside the UK health service. It's called A Time to Think, the inside story of the collapse of the Tavistock's gender service for children by Hannah Barnes. Hannah Barnes is a journalist from the UK. Anyways, if you don't know, because nobody knows, the Tavistock gender service for children was the place in the UK where children could get help if they are transgender or if they show signs of gender dysphoria. The first chapter starts from the point of view of a clinician called Anna Hutchinson.
Dr. Hutchinson was seriously concerned. Are we hurting children? She asked, keen to be reassured. It's the question that underpins everything she's feeling. She was not told no.
So, the whole point
That's
of this
a
book
powerful
is to
opening
examine whether the
paragraph.
health service was hurting children, and specifically children, trans children, children with gender dysphoria. This is all fine and dandy, right? But something doesn't add up. Let me put you down here. Hannah Barnes seems like an honest journalist, right? She uses a lot of citations and she uses the right pronouns for trans people. She's totally woke. But in bringing credibility to the book's narrative, time to think, she interviews a lot of different experts. A host of them. Those are, among a couple of others, Susan and her husband Marcus Evans, Asa Keem, David Bell, Kirsty Entwistle, Melissa Midgen, and then, of course, Anna Hutchinson, who is...
Ooh, okay, this video is really high production value, and I love that. One thing I want to call out that I really like about this video is this spider web chart. I feel like so much of politics can be... There's so much nepotism and networking involved, where, like, you can do the 6 degrees or 7 degrees from Kevin Bacon game, and I feel like between anyone involved in these big right-wing political topics and talking points, these culture war things, there's like 1 degree of separation in most cases between a lot of the people involved, and being able to lay out a visual representation of the origin point of all of this and how it spiderwebbed to what we got to today, literally spiderwebbed. I think this visual aid will be very valuable for people that are only just now getting into politics, you know, like baby progressives.
Is Anna Hutchinson, you ask? I can hear you. Anna Hutchinson is a clinical psychologist with more than 25 years of experience. There are 5 themes that I think are interesting that I maybe want to have a look at. So the first one is this one. Whereas most of the literature on gender non-conforming children was about boys who had a lifelong sense of gender incongruence, Yitz's waiting room was overpopulated with teenage girls whose distress around their gender had only started in adolescence. There's a rapid increase in the amount of trans people, and we know this, that trans people have kind of become a hot button topic, right? Listen to this. Many of them were
same-sex attracted. The same was true for the boys attending kids, and many were autistic. Their lives were complicated too. So many seemed to have other difficulties, eating disorders, self-harm, depression, or had suffered abuse or trauma. How could such different lives and presentations lead to the same answer? Puberty blockers.
There's this rapid
Man, this video is really, like, this is a certified banger. I could throw onto my second monitor and listen to for 5 hours straight while, like, grinding in a video game, man. Certified banger already, this video. It's very well made. And this channel only has 13,000 subscribers. I'm calling it now. This channel's got a bright future ahead. I like this stuff. This is some good content. Make sure to drop a sub. Don't let me forget to subscribe to this channel before we wrap up this segment.
Increase. There's so many more kids coming into this service. Most of them are autistic, or they're complex in some way, and they are very vulnerable. Hannah Barnes keeps saying that these are vulnerable children, and they get puberty blockers. And puberty blockers, by the way, is described as something pretty horrific. They're called extreme medical intervention in the first couple of pages. And
I'm going to guess by extreme medical intervention, the writer means top and bottom surgery.
Listen to this. While there are
Studies that describe the self-reported high satisfaction of young people and their families of being on puberty blockers and some improvement in mental health, others suggest there is evidence that puberty blocker use can lead to changes in sexuality and sexual function, poor bone health, stunted height, low mood, tumor-like masses in the brain, and for those treated early enough to continue on to cross-sex hormones, almost certain infertility.
Maybe they make these children...
I don't think that trans women care much about their fertility as like being able to reproduce as males do, being harmed by hormone blockers more than they do their ability to transition.
Happier, but she also writes many studies
claim to show the benefits of puberty blockers to mental health, but these have all been heavily critiqued and shown to have significant methodological flaws.
Okay, Anna Hutchinson, the clinician from before,
that's true.
Asks, what if it's not right
to put young people, 10-year-olds, on puberty blockers?
It is mad, was the reply. So, why do it? I don't get it.
Well, you know what's so crazy about all this we only have this conversation about trans kids treated with puberty blockers. Puberty blockers don't exist for trans people. They weren't made for that. They existed before trans people became a thing that was getting a lot of attention medically or scientifically, or politically. Hormone blockers have been prescribed specifically to children, or usually teens going through puberty, for a very long time. They were developed to deal with hormonal disorders, many of which become very apparent around puberty because your body's not putting off the right hormones. Maybe your growth is stunted. Maybe it's accelerated in wild ways, and you end up being like 6 feet tall and really hairy at like 12, you know? Like these drugs have existed for a long time, and it had nothing to do with treating trans people. But now that the conversation is about using those drugs as a treatment for gender dysphoria, everyone's like, whoa, 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 can we really trust putting kids, young little baby children, on these hormone blockers? It's like, if they found out that, like, I don't know, if they found out that, like, ear infection medication could help you transition, I'm pretty sure they'd be calling for that to be banned in use on children, but only in the cases of helping them transition. That would be the only case in which it's controversial.
Get it? If it's so bad, one thing is trans people going through the whole puberty blocker ordeal, but what if they aren't trans?
We know that not all young people who identify as trans go on to live as trans adults, Hutchinson says. These studies are small and imperfect, with methodological flaws, but according to the NHS, showed that in prepubertal children, mainly boys, the dysphoria persisted into adulthood for only 6 to 23% of cases. Boys in these studies were more likely to identify as gay in adulthood than as transgender. According to the 5th edition of the American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, known as the DSM-5, rates of childhood gender dysphoria continuing into adolescence or adulthood range from 2 to 30% for males and 12 to 50% in females.
Keep in mind, for people who have been treated with hormone blockers, the percentage of people who grow up and are still transgender and do not, like, desist from transitioning is ridiculously high. I believe the percentage of trans kids who do not grow up and follow through on being trans that were already going through some kind of, like, treatment drops to, like, less than 10% desistance rate, assuming that there is at least one or more supportive people in their life, friend or family. And that also, mind you, that same stat, well, not the same stat, but the fact that having one friend or family member in their life also massively increases the likelihood that they do not attempt suicide or deal with completely crippling depression. Having one supportive member of your family or social life for a trans person has been demonstrated in some studies to reduce the chances of suicidal ideation, depression, or attempted suicide by 70%. And that's just one person being supportive, right? Really, the fact is, most studies that exist right now on this topic indicate that what trans people need to be healthy and happy is support. Your trans kid needs support. You know, let them figure this shit out on their own. But don't fuck them up. Support them. And let them figure it out. Who'd have thought? It's not that complicated.
There's a rapid increase in the amount of children. A lot of these children are autistic, and they're complex somehow, and they all get puberty blockers, but puberty blockers are bad, and maybe they aren't trans. It's like, I don't know, those 5 things shouldn't be that hard to look into. Rapid increase, autism, complexity, puberty blockers, and detransition. Should be a small quippy video.
This video has taken up my day.
Oh my god.
Every day.
Look at all the bookmarks. Look at all the fucking bookmarks. Yeah. Yeah, he did some research on this one. Damn.
For the last 2 years. It has taken up my weekends. It has made me drop out of university. It has made me stay in a low-paying, dead-end job only because it was the only way I could keep focus on this. But every time I thought I finally reached the end, every time I thought I finally understood the inner workings of this thing, I always managed to turn a corner only to find that I'd really only seen the first floor, that there are levels to this, that the network looped back upon itself, that really everything I thought I understood or knew was only partly true or an outright lie. I'm not a journalist, and I don't even have enough subscribers to make money off of this video, but I'm extremely obsessive.
You will soon.
Then again, I'm not a perfectionist. There are more things I haven't managed to fit into this way too long video, and there's even more I don't fully understand yet. It's not done, but you know, I am. And that's okay. You know, I've been wrong for a long time. Gender, feminism, economics. On one hand, I didn't understand, but on the other hand, I don't think I wanted to understand just how wrong I can be. And then I went to therapy that one time and realized, hey, being wrong is okay, but staying wrong, however, hurts not only me, but in turn makes me hurt the people around me.
Something that I've noticed is that politics, in the time that I've been into it, which is a good few what I'll call cycles for now, is heavily impacted by empathy. Like, I think fundamentally, the biggest thing that separates a conservative and a liberal, or a leftist or a progressive, on any given issue, is how much empathy they have. If you operate based on a basis of empathy, when you see America spending US tax dollars on foreign aid, you're like, good, my tax dollars are going to something that matters. When a conservative sees that, they think, what the fuck? Why are my tax dollars leaving the country and going to people that have nothing to do with America? You're wrong about that, Zan? That's a fair disagreement if you want to have it, but this is just how I've seen things. And so, something I've noticed is that, let's say every 4 to 5 years or so, sometimes more, sometimes less, it feels like a whole new batch of, like, old like 16 to 17-year-old, like old teenagers, we'll say, enter the realm of politics. They start, you know, en masse getting addicted to political content, getting involved in, you know, right-wing memes and spreading right-wing cultural indicators and making them kind of be everywhere. Think all the kids and teenagers watching Andrew Tate a couple of years ago and kind of what's came since then. And I think a lot of that comes from the lack of empathy that a lot of these young people have. Like, the ability to feel empathy is, I don't think is necessarily, like, biologically foregone in them. I think it's more that, like, they haven't experienced enough life to figure it out, to, like, understand that everybody else deserves as much, you know, care as you have for yourself. You know, treat others how you want to be treated, that kind of thing. And I think some people have to grow up a little bit. And some people grow up a little earlier than later in this respect. And I think that when a new batch of young people grows up, goes to therapy, gets their first girlfriend, and starts to, like, have a lot of the lies and misrepresentations of the conservative ideology blown away, I think many of them come away from it and they have a political transformation. Many of you in my community have probably had that same experience. You know, many of you guys, I know for a fact, used to be conservative and now you're left-leaning. And most of you were conservative when you were younger. Like teenagers. Link me this vid, please. I plan to use it in arguments. Yeah, I'll drop a link to the video in chat. Both chats, in fact. Let me grab it really fast. Hopefully you guys make use of that link, share it with friends and all that. Let's resume.
I know I was wrong, and it hurts to accept that you're wrong. But if you want to get better, you have to accept it. All of this is just to say, if you watch the whole video and disagree with everything I'm saying, then you're wrong. Now, you may think I'm this or that, but just close down the video, be angry, and come back later, okay?
I just want to read you the last 3 sentences of the opening chapter of Time to Think, which I think sums up my approach to this. Because for me, it's about healthcare, really. And how so many people sat back, watched, and did nothing.
It takes Hannah Barnes 500 pages and 902 sources to conclude that, yes, they were hurting children. And on this, we agree. I also think children are being hurt. But how they're being hurt, or pretty much everything else, no, I do not agree with Barnes. Look, Hannah Barnes is so wrong that trying to retrace her steps has led me to question, well, pretty much everything I thought I knew. How do I know Barnes and this book is wrong? Well, there are two ways of going about it. You could read through all her sources, through the decades of research, court documents, counter-arguments, sociological and scientific advancements, political movements, leaks, corruption, and motives. All my sources are linked right here, and in a separate document in the description. You could do that. Or, you could just listen to trans people. And to any trans person watching, you don't need me to tell you that you have a right to exist. You deserve love and kindness, but you don't need me to tell you that. And
That's true, obviously. One thing I've noticed is that, in the past, and I mean the past, back in the era when the left was arguably culturally dominant online, there was a tendency for people that I like to call woke scolds to gather together and engage in big harassment, cancel culture campaigns against almost exclusively progressive figures with a platform over anything that they perceived as problematic. And let me give you guys an example to help set the scene here. Lindsay Ellis, very popular left-wing media critiquer, no longer uploads on YouTube much these days, and pretty much, I think, paywalls all her new content on Patreon now just to her exclusive fans, because she put out a review for a movie called Raya the Last Dragon. No, she didn't put out a review for it. She tweeted one tweet as a review of the movie and said it was good, and then joked about how it stole the concept, or copied Avatar. Didn't really make the claim super seriously, just said it copied Avatar as a joke about how both were inspired by Asian cultures and mythologies and stuff. The joke is I don't know, it'd be like if you played... It'd be like if you watched Game of Thrones and was like, oh my god, is Daenerys the Dragonborn? And joked about that, and people took you seriously. That is how clearly a joke she was making, right? And she got dogpiled and canceled beyond belief. She literally, according to her, was dealing with so much stress over it that she was shitting blood, according to her Twitter post, which is not healthy, according to doctors, 9 out of 10 doctors. And, that is how bad it was back then. But, these woke scold types had a tendency to jump on people, particularly even me, for being cis and thinking it was our place to argue in the defense of trans people. And time again, I would make the argument that, well, no, a lot of transphobes aren't going to listen to a trans person explain why they're valid because they don't, see you as a person. They aren't even willing to they won't listen to you for more than a second. They might listen to you, but they won't hear you, if that makes sense. Or they might hear you, but they won't listen to you. And so, I would like to use what privilege I have to, get through to people that have that wall up and are unwilling to listen to a trans person explain, why transphobia is wrong, right? And I think that argument is kind of weak now, looking back at it. The fact is that culturally, we need to build a culture around debunking misinformation of all kinds. Misinformation and right-wing talking points of all kinds on every topic have become so prevalent and infectious, mimetic hazards, essentially, in our society, that everybody, regardless of their identity, needs to have some level of ability to call out and debunk these bogus right-wing bigoted arguments towards any group or any idea that the left purports in order to help people. And so it's less now, I think, that, if you're not trans, you should use your privilege to defend trans people. And it's more that, even if you're not trans, you have a responsibility to call out the flaws in transphobia. It's not just like a thing that you can do, it's a thing you should do. You act like you should even be letting the right have a voice at all. Exactly, like at any opportunity possible to drown out the voices of far-right conservatives should be taken at any time by any progressive that can.
If you're trans, I'll warn you, there's very little kindness in what I'm going to show. So, all in all, let me show you what happened when I looked into those 5 small things. Rapid onset of possible transness, autism, complexity, puberty blockers, and desistance. But
these are the core, I really like this, these are the 5 core things that the more hardcore transphobic, and by that I mean the people who will actually engage in discourse of any kind around, like, the validity of trans people, which is not as common these days. Rapid onset gender dysphoria is what the first point is referencing. Essentially is in reference to the idea that transphobes believe the exponentially increasing amount of young people identifying as trans every year must be a sign that like it is in some way a social contagion that spreads to people, and what they call that contagion is rapid onset gender dysphoria, a thing that is not recognized by any science, doctors, sociologists at all. It's not real. But that is their name for it, because they have no explanation for how there could be so many trans kids just popping up out of the woodwork. Now, there is, of course, the classic left-handedness chart that everyone knows about, where once they stopped banning being left-handed in schools, we just saw an exponential increase and then complete flatlining in the amount of kids who were left-handed in school. And so we're essentially seeing, most likely, that exact phenomenon, and people are responding to it by saying, look, it's spreading. Then you've got the autism detail. Now, a lot of conservatives, transphobes, TERFs, etc. believe that most trans people are just autistic and have been influenced in some way into believing that they are trans due to their perception that autistic people are incapable of understanding themselves. This is an idea mostly purported by extremely, ableist people that don't see, like they literally think autistic people are non-functional and don't even understand who or what they are. And they try to argue that transness is like a symptom of autism or misdiagnosed autism. Complexity, just generally like talking about how it's too complex for kids to understand. How could they know their identity? Puberty blockers, they argue puberty blockers are dangerous when most data shows that they're not. If they were, we wouldn't be prescribing them to kids who are not trans for tons of different things that we prescribe them to kids for. And then there's desistance, the chance of trans kids getting treatment and later in life regretting it and no longer wanting to be transgender and desisting from transitioning. These are the 5 core things that the right uses against trans people argument-wise.
first, we're gonna have to lay out some fundamentals just so we don't accidentally misunderstand each other.
Chapter 2, Transphobia.
In the summer of 2019, Kirsty Entwistle published an open letter to the director of the Tavistock...
Yeah, okay, I want to watch more. I really do, but we've been here for 30 minutes, and I don't want to steal too much content from this lovely, lovely video. I mostly want to provide my own commentary, which I feel I've given plenty of, and get you guys interested in watching this, because I am impressed. People talked a big game about how good this video was in my Discord, and they weren't wrong. So thank you to the people who recommended that, notably Robotic Phoenix. If you're in chat right now, then big shout out to you. Thanks for recommending this video. Remember, in my Discord server, you can recommend topics for me to cover. There's a whole channel dedicated to it called Stream Suggestions. I highly recommend you make use of it. So yeah, go check out Jasper Dasper's video. It's really good. I dropped the link in chat, and on top of that, there'll be a link in the description down below, and this goes out as its own video. Big shout out to Jasper, really good video. I'm dropping a like, and I'm subscribing, and I'm ringing the bell icon, which is exactly what you should do to me if you liked my video as well. It really does help a lot, every single like and comment you leave on my videos. It's totally free, and it only takes a second if you liked and enjoyed my video. And of course, don't forget to subscribe as well, and ring that bell icon so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos. And if you want to see more from me on other platforms, be sure to follow my social medias linked down below. in the description, notably my fan Discord, as it's the main hub of my community and fan base, and on top of that, every week on Fridays I host gaming events, call-in streams, watch parties, or movie nights there, so if you guys don't want to miss anything, that's the place to be. Make sure to join through the link down below. And finally, if you guys want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xanderhall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xanderhall merch through the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless of how you support me though, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.